Hi everybody, I'm Bryson, and I want to welcome everybody to our Habits of Health book club. And today is September 10th, and I'm excited to study chapters 3 and 4. I'm not new to this journey. I actually started my own journey about almost 3 years ago. Next month will be my 3-year mark, and but I learn something every single time I study this book. So I'm really honored to be able to have this book club and to have so many join us for it. So today, I know I say this every week, but today I love this topic, and I have a lot of relevant things to share with each of you this week as we go through. Like I said, I'm not new to this. I'm 3 years in, but I had to apply lots of these principles that we're going to talk about this week. I had to apply a lot of those in my personal life this week, and I'll explain why as we go. So first of all, in chapter 3, Dr. A talks about the motivation factor, and wants us to know why we want to change. And that seems really obvious, but here is, again, another reason I love this program so much is because unlike other things I've done in my life, it really takes the focus from changes it from running from something to running towards something. And let me explain that just a little bit. So on page 19 in chapter 3, Dr. A talks about our motivation for wanting change. For example, I've come a long ways in the last 3 years. My initial motivation for wanting to change was to run from something. I went to the doctors and I got the horrible health report that I was obese with high cholesterol, blood pressure, A1C, and triglycerides, and I needed to start medication for all of it. And that was really uncomfortable and sad, and I wanted to run from that reality. And that carried me to first getting me started on this program that I now coach for and studying this book and learning these principles. But the thing about that is when we run from something, it can only carry us so far. And I'm going to explain that just a little bit. So there's a predictable and unfortunate cycle that maybe some of you have been down and or recognize where something makes us uncomfortable. In that instance, it was my weight and my blood work. And then it makes us act. Now, those can be good things, but when we act and we start to get results, then we start to feel comfortable. And then I say we kind of kick into the habit thing when we start feeling less pressure and less emotional conflict. We go back to the way that we knew. And so our habits that we had, for example, if you're an emotional eater, what do you do when you feel upset? Or what do you do when you feel happy? Or, if we emotionally eat, we tend to go back to those things. Or one of the examples that I love that Dr. A uses, and I will say I've also been guilty of in my life. He says, what do we do to celebrate? He said, how many times have we reached a goal? And sometimes that's a weight loss goal. And what do we do to celebrate? Do we end up at McDonald's or Burger King or somewhere else and get something to reward ourselves? So, yep. Been there, done that. So we return to our original behavior, which then leads us to our original results. So it's a predictable pattern that happens, but here's the thing, the great news in this chapter is that he really helps us to begin to understand that first that is a pattern and a cycle. And I think that that's one of the first steps for us to recognize is that we have certain patterns and behaviors and cycles. And recognize it so that it becomes a starting point for us to change that. Now I'm kind of just flying through a lot of stuff today. So Dee and Susie, wave your hand or stop me when you have something you want to add in here. So one of the great things that Dr. A talks about, I'm on page 20 now in the Habits of Health book, is he says, just to recognize this, and he said, unfortunately, kind of even in the medical industry, that there's a pattern that they kind of reinforce this pattern, because so many times we'll hear doctors say, you've got to change that, you've got to run from this. You've got to change your blood work, which was certainly the case in mine, but the doctor didn't have bad intentions at all. It's just that is kind of where we've gone as a society. We've run from something instead of running to something. So we're going to talk today about how to shift that a little bit. It says, and self-control. We can only rely on self-control for so far. And I love chapter 3. He goes into a lot of things that I'm not going to cover. I'm going to encourage several of you to just really study this chapter if you want to understand this at a deeper level. But it says in terms of problem solving versus desired outcome, at the top of page 21, he says, think in terms of trying to fix your bad health. That's a problem, kind of a problem solution, versus shifting your focus to creating health is an outcome orientation. So what we want to do is we want to make an outcome where we want to go with our health. And so one of the things that I personally have used that has helped me is to create a vision board of what good health looks like for me. And so that I'm not, initially I was running from something, but exactly what he warned happened to me. And I got to a place where I was kind of stuck, and I said, well, I felt good. I was like, oh, guess what? I don't have high blood pressure anymore. I don't have this or this or this or this anymore. I'm not in the obese category anymore, but I wasn't in the optimal health category either. And it's a process, so don't beat yourself up. Just learn and grow from it and realize and kind of stop yourself and go, wait, where am I in this spectrum? Am I going towards health, or am I running from something? Susie, do you have anything to add at this point?
No, it's a great point, but what I was thinking is, do you have your vision board like close by that we can see it?
I do. I actually carry it on my phone. And the way
I've always wanted to do it and I've never done it.
You haven't? Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. So there's a few different ways that I've seen it. Like some people actually take magazine pictures or whatever, and they create that with making an actual paper collage. The key thing is to have access to it, whatever it is. So for me, what I did, because I knew I needed it on my phone, because my phone is always with me, is I created a Pinterest board. That's my vision board. And so it does take a couple steps for me to get to it, but I can get to it in any situation. So I can see the pictures and remind myself, oh yeah, I'm very visual. Some people have created word boards. There's actually vision board apps out there that you can get that help you to create a vision board. So I think the big thing is knowing where you want to go and making sure that it's outcome oriented versus running from something. Because what I have found over and over in my life is that I don't have enough willpower to run away from something. I need to visualize where I'm going. And part of that too, at least for me, is I need to visualize it because there's a small part of me that might not believe it. So the more I can act, I don't believe that I'm strong enough to really get there. So the more I visualize it, the more I can actually start believing it. And then this cool thing happens when you believe it, you achieve it. It's really true. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the first challenge in this chapter is to shift thinking from what you're against to what you're for. And then he goes on and he talks about, well, he just goes on and on, talks about the process that, you know, we, as a dieter's mentality, that it's usually not, it's usually conflict driven and not for solution, like running towards health. And I'm going to swing over to page 22. And in page 22, he says, think back. This is at the bottom paragraph of page 22. He says, think back to the last time you tried unsuccessfully to lose weight. Remember how you reverted to your old eating habits once the pressure to change diminished? Now, how easy now how easy was it to sink into your old behaviors, to celebrate your accomplishments by celebrating at McDonald's or Burger King? And so I just wanted to pause right there and talk for a minute about something that I learned. And this is I am an emotional eater. So I've had to just learn to reframe the way I think a lot of times. So in my challenge group, in my health challenge group, I've always challenged people to make vision boards. And I ask them to decide something that they're going to throw away. But here's the thing. You have to not only choose to throw something away, but you have to replace it with something else. So, for example, when I'm upset, I can't just say, oh, my goal is going to be that I'm upset, so I'm not going to emotionally eat anymore. Because what happens when the emotions come? We want to fix ourselves. We don't want to keep those uncomfortable feelings. So we revert back to the habits. But here's the good news. You're going to hear me say this in every single chapter. The good news is that a habit is just something that we've done over and over and over again until it's just automatic and we don't think about it anymore. So when we want to get rid of a bad habit, we need to start replacing it with a good habit. And that is just something that we're going to do over and over and over and over again until we don't have to think about it anymore. And then it becomes a good habit. So when you want to throw away something, you have to replace it with something good. So for me, I literally have to walk away from temptation. So there's been times, even in social events, and sometimes even at my own house, when my house is full of people, that I walk away from something for a minute and I say, okay, self, this is your choice. You can go in and have that if you really want that, but you also have the choice not to. And sometimes that means physically walking away from something for me. And then sometimes that may be something like, okay, when I'm tempted with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hum this little tune that makes me happy if I'm feeling sad, or I may go watch some comedy thing for a minute just to get myself out of that sad state. But it's just reframing. I've noticed that I really had to fight the whole deprivation mentality. Maybe some of you can relate with this. I thought, at first I was panicked. Am I going to have to be deprived of something for my whole life in order to have health? Is that worth it? Is that happiness? Sound familiar? Anyone ever struggle with that thought? Well, instead, I have a friend who helped me reframe that, Heidi. And Heidi pointed out, what is deprivation to you? Are you feeling deprived because you can't have whatever item it is that you think is going to bring you happiness, and then you eat it and it actually doesn't bring you happiness? Are you feeling that deprivation? Or what are you feeling deprived of? Good health? Are you feeling deprived of energy when you do eat that way? Are you feeling deprived of all these things? And really help me reframe it. And what I know the number one thing for me is when I'm not making good, healthy choices, I feel deprived of being in control of myself. And that for me is the hardest thing. There's not many things I can control in life. Does sometimes I have to just roll with things. But there are things that I can control, and I hate not feeling in control of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather be deprived of, and I don't even think of it as, I actually have really shifted my thought in this, is I don't feel deprived of my choice to not have ice cream. And wherever you are in your journey, you know, not saying that you can never have those things. It's just that if you revert back to the same habits that you've always had, you'll always get the same results that you always had. So somewhere there has to be some change. And I no longer feel that panic, and I no longer feel that deprivation, because I've replaced it with feeling better and feeling in control of me. And I wouldn't replace that for anything. So Susie or Dee, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I had a question, and I'm sort of in that process, and I use that replacement I haven't really used it in this process until I read the chapter and started with Optavia, but I use replace because you can't erase. I use that philosophy a lot. And, but what you just said really was remarkable to me, because, and your comment about doing the chocolate taster fill-in at the fair, because yesterday I actually I didn't choose to replace. And I'm finding that I'm doing it in little steps. Like I'm an emotional eater, but it's pretty much on the other side. That's my celebratory. Mm-hmm. I don't really have down. I do, but those I don't seem to have as much trouble with as I do the ups, the celebration, emotional eating. So, and I did really well, and I lost my 2 pounds this week, and and I wasn't celebrating that. I was celebrating this other thing, which happens to be a horse show I was at. But so on the way home, I'm staying with friends, and they like ice cream, and they eat ice cream. So on the way home, I'm staying at their place. So you know how you take a gift to a friend. Mm-hmm. So I said, what can I stop and get for you? And it was ice cream. So then, of course, when I got here, they had ice cream. And I didn't go through that conscious thought process. And I easily could have made myself a shake, which is like super, way better. Those caramel macchiato shakes are so much, better. What a great replacer. But I didn't do it. And I didn't beat myself up, though, but I find that in little pieces I'm replacing. And I think it's really important to give ourselves credit for it's not an overnight success.
That's right.
Just like anything that we're replacing, not erasing. And but your comment, whatever it was, I did write it down, it'll really help me make that next choice. Oh, it was the deprivation, because I can walk in there in front of the ice cream and go, and that's a going to something, mm-hmm. not a going against something. It puts it back in the going to. So I really like that. Change it from what we're being deprived of, and it will pretty soon erase or replace the deprivation feeling.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Allow yourself to have this process. It's really not about perfection. It's about progression. And just keep in mind that wherever you are, I'm 3 years down the road. But the key thing is that I've kept studying this. Mm-hmm. I didn't get to that comfortable spot and go, oh, hey, I did it. I'm done. That was just the beginning for me to get to a spot where I did change my blood work. And now I'm actually running towards health instead of away from something. So just allow yourself the process of growth. And maybe that's part of the pattern too. And I'll just stop there for a second and kind of rewind, is when maybe we've created the habit of when we feel bad about ourselves because of a choice that we've made, and then we say to ourselves, we get that negative chatter in our head, and we say to ourselves, oh, see, you couldn't do this anyway. You're not strong enough. And so we go back to making bad choices. Instead, recognize that you do have the choice to take control of your thoughts. And so when that little chatter starts going on, that you recognize it and go, wait, stop. Guess what? I can control you. You aren't going to win this time. I do deserve better help, and I'm running towards something. And just stop that negative thought right there. And if you catch yourself that you've gone back into that pattern where maybe you gave up for a minute or maybe for an hour, just take control, and instead of waiting for the next Monday or the next day, choose that moment to make the change. And I really, really can't emphasize enough how much this journey is about changing your thinking, not just your eating. So I will say I have found freedom in so many ways from food, but also from myself in the way that I talk to myself. Not perfect at it. It's a process, and I'm really just beginning to work on that mental process. So be kind to yourself. Be your best friend to yourself. Okay, and let's see. So we have to know a starting place. Lots of people in my support groups know that you have to have a starting place. I'll say this is always one of the most painful things for me to face, or also for my clients to face in the beginning. I'm like, okay, we're going to go on a trip. And you know where you want to go. You know how you're going to get there. And if you don't, then talk to somebody that will help you know how to get there. And you have to know where you're starting at. So be honest with yourself. You know, you're only cheating yourself if you don't do the measurements or the weighing or the accountability. So all of this is your choice. If you want to change your outcome, change your habits. And so you're going to create the vision board, or at least here, I love Dr. A's suggestion of maybe there's like, you know, some skinny pair of jeans or a dress or something that your goal is to get into. So go ahead and buy it. Try it on. Hang it up. Maybe that's your vision board. There's no one right way to have a vision board. Whatever motivates you and keeps you focused. So I thought it was kind of cool, you know. I started out in the size 18-20, and I'm wearing a 10 now, and I'm super excited to buy a single digit number, which, you know, I realize there are more important things in the world than a size, but I'm kind of excited about the thought of squeezing into a size 8, or not squeezing into a size 8, but fitting in a comfortable size 8. So this week I'm going to go buy a pair of size 8, and instead of being discouraged if they don't fit me the way I want them to, I'm just going to keep trying them on every Monday. I'm going to pop them on and say, hey, look, this is how much progress I'm making. So your vision board can look like lots of different things. It's just where you want to go. And my other thing is I want to be able to run. I've never been able to run under a 10-minute mile. So that's my other goal. Here I am, a grandma of 6, and my goal is to get under a 10-minute mile, because why not? So whatever whatever health looks like for you, because that's what it looks like for me, doesn't mean that it has to look that way for you. So just think about, what does health look like, and start creating that. And then set yourself up with a support system, and have what is called structural tension. Structural tension is where we know our starting place. We know what our goal is. We're going to have accountability. So basically picture having a bow and arrow, and you have a goal. And in order for it to go, you have to kind of pull it tight in order for it to go. So part of the pulling it tight is creating the tension is we're going to have a plan, and we're going to know where we're starting at. We're going to see where we're going. And then say you're part of a support group, or you talk to your coach or whatever, but you're going to have accountability. So you're going to have accountability each week. Maybe you already have a health coach, so reach out to that health coach every single week, and let her know, or him know, exactly where you're at. and be honest with yourself exactly where you're at. So that's part of the change. Susie, do you have anything to add about structural tension?
Not really. Well, I was kind of thinking about it. My husband is bow hunting right now, so that kind of like hit home with that. But I was thinking about where you said let him or her know, your coach. I just, the thought that popped into my mind is, I know that when I don't get hold of my coach, or when my clients don't get hold of me when they're supposed to, then usually that's like something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't want to talk to me because they're off plan or whatever, and they're feeling bad about themselves. And so, yeah, it's really important to just do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I always feel so bad when my clients, my friends, especially when they are avoiding me because they don't want to tell me that they're struggling. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to help you and to tell you I understand. You know, we've been there. We've been in the process, and it is just a process. So, but part of the change is holding yourself accountable and making a commitment to hold yourself to that. So one of the things that I'm going to kind of jump over to chapter 4 because we're running out of time is once you make the choice to be healthy, Dr. A says, you've made it your business to act in accordance with your goal. You're taking full responsibility for your actions. Rather than letting circumstances drive your decisions, you become the author of your own life story. And I love that. It's very empowering because we are. And, you know, so many times we put the blame on someone else or, you know, on the circumstance, but we can choose. And so part of my journey to changing my health, I mentioned most of it, a large portion of it at least, has been the way I think, changing my mental patterns as well as my physical patterns. And so one of the things that I have chosen to do for myself is every day listen to something that motivates me to become a little bit better person. And so I am like the addict of self-help books, and I listen to Audible all the time because I'm a homeschool mom and I spend a lot of time driving. And so it's just my way, or sitting and waiting for a child to finish something. And so while I'm waiting, I can choose to walk, or driving. I'm trying to make good use of that time. And so I listen to books. And so the book that I'm listening to right now is called Girl, Wash Your Face. And I can't recommend it enough. I love it so much. And one of the things that the author says in that book is, she says, you know, as far as integrity goes, like, would we ever dream of standing our friend up, like saying, oh yeah, I'm going to do this and I'll be there and you can count on me to do that, and then not be there? Chances are, if we have any integrity, no, we would never do that to anyone else. And then she says, how many times have you said, I'm setting this goal for myself and this is how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get up every morning and, you know, I'm going to go for a walk for half an hour or whatever, and the first thing that we take off of our list is that self-care? I've done that so many times. Yep. So that's part of the pattern that I'm now trying to make sure that I'm changing, is to treat myself just like I would my best friend. I would never tell my best friend, I'm going to be there for you and do this and this and this. And the author of Girl, Wash Your Face brings up that one time she went out for a late girls' night and they ended up staying out late. And then she called her friend the next morning and told her friend, oh yeah, I ended up having to run on the treadmill at like midnight because I stayed out so late. She's like, girl, why did you do that? And the author of the book says, because I made a promise to myself and I never break promises to myself. And that was like a light bulb moment for me to go, you know what? That's what this health journey is for me, is it's a commitment to myself. It's not just a frivolous thing that I need to justify. This is health, and it's a priority, and it's taking care of me so that I can be there for all those other people that need me. And so I love the lesson that I've learned in that book is that I'm not going to break a promise to myself. I'm going to treat myself just like I would my best friend and show up. So on that note, I think we're about out of time, but I just barely touched on chapter 4. But so I can't emphasize enough. Just go through and read it. There's so many fantastic tidbits through it, and just be kind to yourself and love on yourself and be your best friend. So, Dee, do you have anything to add before we close?
No, just thank you, Dee. It was great reinforcement, and looking forward to the next one.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Susie and Dee. Oh, and you know, I meant to say way back when. So before the recording started, just kind of let you guys know what my week's been like. I've been at the fairgrounds, and it's our fair here, which is a big to-do. We live in the middle of wheat fields, and so when the fair and rodeo come, it's big. And I also was asked to be a judge at the chocolate tasting contest. And so I was telling the ladies about this before we pushed record. And so I had to make a choice. I was really honored to ask to be a judge, but I knew that that did not take me towards my goal. So I had to make a choice, and I felt like I needed to go there and be a judge, but I didn't want to put that in my body because I'm like a sugar-aholic. Seriously, I'm like a drunk that would have a beer, like one taste, and I just know this about myself. It's not good. So I'd rather just stay away from it so I can be in control of me. And so what I did is I asked someone that I love to go with me and to be the tasting judge for me, and I judged the rest of the competition, the way it looked and everything. So anyway, it is just about making choices, and that was tough for me because there was a part of me that was like, oh yeah, I want to judge that chocolate. But it's just about making choices. I had to pull out that vision board and look at it and go, okay, is this really what you want to do? So wherever you're at this week, make a vision board, know where you want to go, and work towards it. Be your best friend, be true to yourself. And have a great week, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.